Well, I'm still here. We are all still here, living large in quarantine. It's been over 10 days. I haven't left the house. And I hope everyone is staying safe and staying healthy. I've been preoccupying myself with trying to get the phone system up and running so I can take your calls, and we did a test of that yesterday, and we're going to do more of that soon. While I was streaming yesterday, Dane Cook was checking out some of my live stream, and he texted me today and was telling me that he was watching. And I said, hey, why don't you phone into the podcast? Would you like to? And he said, sure. And he just gave me a call, and we just did it like that. That's what's kind of really amazing about this world that we're living in now. We're all connected, and Dane and I have been friends for the last few years. We crossed paths at the comedy clubs, and he's come up and done my shows over the past few years, and now it's just so much more in real time. It's sort of like I didn't really prepare for this show. Dane texted me. I said, you want to call? He said, sure. I said, let me set up the computer. Call me in 10 minutes. And that's what we did. So here's Dane Cook.
Tom, what's up, man?
Oh, man. How are you, man? Good to talk to you, man. Thanks for calling.
Happy quarantine Sunday.
We were chatting fairly early on in this whole thing, weren't we? When this was just starting to happen, and I appreciate your insight into some of this stuff. It's been a wild couple of weeks, hasn't it?
It not only has been a wild couple of weeks, but about 2 months ago, I reached out to a person who does medium stuff, psychic, and I haven't done that very often, but from time to time, I always think it's kind of fascinating, and sometimes you get with a person who's actually just complete rubbish, and they just start telling stories about your life that aren't even true, and that's entertaining in its own way.
Yeah.
But this girl did something that was really remarkable. First of all, she said there's a jacket that your dad is. My dad apparently was coming through. My parents had passed away. My dad came through, and she said your dad's coming through and says you have his jacket in your closet. And I was like, I do. So I went up and I got the jacket, and she said there's a note that your dad left in the jacket pocket. And sure enough, there was a note.
Whoa.
So I was like, okay, right? Legitimately real deal.
Wow.
And then that was about a year plus ago that this all happened. So I knew she was legit, and I happened to talk to her again a couple of months ago. And I said, oh, I've got this thing coming up in March, April. And she goes, yeah, you probably don't.
Really?
And I was like, what do you mean? What are you seeing? She goes, I can't tell you. I don't know exactly. She goes, but I will tell you this. It's something that's going to stop everybody. There's going to be a big, big pause.
Wow.
In March, April, May. She said, so whatever your plans are for those few months, she said, and I quote, they're going to change.
See, I had something happen in my on my side here that was kind of not in any way similar, but kind of prophetic in a way. About 2 weeks before this went down, this has been going on in China, and it was now in Italy, and I said, I have a feeling that I probably should stock up on some food, And I went and I got stuff. I got rice, and I kind of started sort of doomsday prepping a little bit. I got the bag of rice, the giant bag of rice. I got the beans. I started learning about how, a fully balanced diet, you could live a year off of beans, rice, and corn. So I need canned corn. And I was getting all into it, and I was telling my friends, hey, you should probably consider in case there's, a run on the grocery stores. I didn't really think it was going to happen. And then 2 weeks later, this happens, which is somewhat surreal and strange. So is it a coincidence? Is there something bigger at play here? It's hard to say.
Yeah. I wish that I had that same wherewithal to prepare in that way, because I know I should, and you're right to do that. But there's always been a little part of me that is weirdly rebellious in moments like this. And I know that's not always the healthiest thing to admit. When I was in high school, Tom, we had and they can't do this anymore. This has since been outlawed in high schools in the United States. But when I was back in high school, 1989, I was getting ready to graduate, and part of our graduation was we had to do a 3-day survival where you would go into the woods of New Hampshire. They did this every year, by the way, at Arlington High School in Massachusetts for over 30 years.
Wow.
They would take you to New Hampshire. You were trained over the course of a couple of months, and as part of to constitute your graduation, you were put into a place out in the land, and you had to basically survive with a tarp that you would build your own shelter with, and then you were allowed to bring food for 3 days, and that food was something that you could bury in the snow because there was always snow at this time of year.
Right, sure.
So I go to all my friends, and I'm like, what are you bringing? I got friends, I'm bringing canned vegetables, and another one said, I'm going to bring canned fruit. I've got fruit cups, and I'm going to bury the fruit cups. And everybody was bringing these healthy, great ideas and options. I got a pizza. I froze the pizza, 2 pizzas in like individual slices, and that's what I brought into the fucking woods for 3 days.
Not like
I buried frozen pizza.
Not typical
so
camping
food. I don't prepare
food.
very well, like yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm living large over here with my beans and corn, Dane. So it's things are. So how are you? How are you doing? What you told me that you were on my stream, on my Instagram stream, but I didn't see you on the stream.
Yeah, I bopped over there. I saw you on, and I think that just all of us taking time to find new and innovative ways to connect with new fans, old fans, other comedians, other entertainers. I think it's a real, we're very fortunate to have that. So thank you for entertaining me. And I've been saying that to a lot of my good friends that are doing the exact same thing. It was nice to pop in there and see what you were doing over there.
It's so cool now, the world we're living in, where I was actually talking to Jeff Ross about this, about how he's been, we're all at home, we're all sort of antsy, we're out of our usual routine, and going around and checking out what our friends are doing on the Instagram. I mean, nobody is. Maybe you don't like to be prepared with the foodstuffs, but nobody is more prepared for the social media aspects of this pandemic. Dane, you sort of started all this stuff, right, with your MySpace back in the MySpace days.
I will say I'm very comfortable with that kind of correspondence. I've always been a bit of an introvert. I get a little bit of social anxiety. I've been that way my whole life. So I found that if I could meet people and communicate through social media, whether it was earlier in my career or even now in a way that's just more health-based, for sanity purposes, for love, just being able to call people and talk about things that make you feel fulfilled and loved and cared about, and you want to give that to other people. But it's great also to know so many comedians, because now we're just laughing our asses off at a time when we're all very nervous and we feel crippled in this moment. So very lucky to have this platform.
You have millions of fans and followers out there. Are you noticing any sort of difference in the way people are interacting or behaving now with this sort of global thing that's happening?
Yeah, I think that most people, like you're probably seeing, are just yearning for both connection and experiences, pretty much like you would get commonly in life. If we're performing, we do a lot of shows together, and on any given night, what is that crowd there for? They need a little bit of an escape. And so we all, and, our fans, they need that now as well. So it's nice to provide it, but I think it's also great that we can, that we can appreciate that from each other. The funny thing that I'm noticing is, like, you get all these people, you get a lot of goodwill, and you'll see comments, and thank you so much for doing this, and I can't believe that I get to chat with Tom Green, or I get to talk with Jeff Ross, and I got Dane Cook, and then you get these great comments in the goodwill, and then like every 10th comment is just like somebody being like, You look old.
Yeah.
You haven't been funny since '05.
Yeah.
It's like, and you kind of weirdly appreciate, even the trolls are okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I shaved my beard for the first time in 10 years the other day, and I haven't heard so many nice things about my face in my life. It's just been unbelievable how nice everybody's been.
You look great, by the way, man. I think it's a good look.
It's interesting. I don't know. Maybe some people like just really, really have a problem with change or something like that. Because I get it. I get both.
They say that hair holds power. There's that belief that like long hair or dreads or long beard, and then when you shave that, there's supposed to be some kind of release of old energies. If you want to subscribe to that belief, so you're probably feeling effervescent and ready for the next phase or whatever that might be.
Well, it was also, I was reading, because I'm reading a lot about the virus, about the pandemic that we're in the midst of right now. We're having a pandemic right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm reading about it a lot because you want to be prepared, and I did read somewhere they said the virus can live in your beard. So I thought, well, geez, maybe it's a good time to shave the beard during the pandemic.
Oh shoot!
But and I figured since I'm not going to be leaving the house for the next little while, it probably wouldn't matter if I shaved it anyway. But are you in any way kind of afraid?
Well, I'm not afraid in terms of, I'm fortunate, I have good health. I don't suffer from any ailments that are, I have a good friend who's a type 1 diabetic. Now for him, I'm afraid. So I do have concern and fear for people that I know around me that have other impairments. But for me personally, I feel like I'm in good health, and I've been healthy through this. So I'm just going to look to, keep kind of doing what I'm doing. But I definitely have concern for several people that I know.
It's weird how there's so much information flying around, and you don't really, you'd think that we would know what's going to happen, right? But it really seems kind of unclear how long this is going to last, for example. Let's just keep it simple. How long do you think we're going to, I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows how long we're going to be in our homes and on lockdown. And have you given thought to like how long you would possibly be able to be locked up in your house like this?
Yeah, listen, it's gonna be a test, and it's gonna be for a little while for sure. If we're not, if people don't take that extra step of when they say quarantining, like really, really trying to keep your distance from other people, and if we don't do this the right way, it's going to be stretched out. It's going to be longer. And, I, like anybody, that overwhelms me sometimes, the thought of that. I miss being on stage. That probably more than anything kind of washes over you. But then I'm a person, I've always tried to focus on, okay, what can I do and how can I help? And what are ways that I can, outside of my stand-up or reaching out through social media, give back? And I found some great resources to be able to feel purpose in the community, even though we're all just, holed up, hoping that this thing, washes away eventually.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the sort of the absence of getting up on stage in your life and how that feels, because, you more than anyone, you tour all year round, but then when you're not on tour in LA, you're getting up on every stage in town every night, even on nights you're not working, you're working here. You get that nightly dose of adrenaline and catharsis, which is, I think, something that we all love when we do comedy. And you've been doing this for so long and so consistently on stage, so regularly on stage, it must feel kind of physically different or emotionally different just not being able to get up on stage every night.
Yeah. Do you find like myself that right around like 9:30 you get like that jolt of extra energy because that's right around the pocket of time you'd be on stage? Do you get that?
Yeah, I've been kind of, here's the thing. I'm going to give you exactly what I'm thinking right now, which is I'm not even going to edit myself. When I do stand-up, I don't drink during the day. I don't drink when I'm doing stand-up. That's something I've decided is better for me. Okay. I don't drink before I go on stage. I don't drink during the show. If I'm doing a weekend of shows, I won't drink after the show. And so all that energy, that burst of energy you're talking about is on the stage, right? Hopefully. And, but now, because, and I'm not drinking a lot right now because I also want to be aware of my immune system and make sure that I'm healthy and stuff. But usually around that time of day right now, I have a glass of scotch and that calms me down a little bit.
Well, good. I mean, again, everything is, it's, what is that, like in moderation? It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's exactly
I don't have that outlet of, I don't drink.
Yeah,
you know, some of my friends like to get high, and they tell me they're, for me, it's really always been about exercise. So I try to get my second wind during the day by doing some like at-home, quarantined, Rocky type, how can I make my own little makeshift gym here at the pad? So
Absolutely.
that's kind of my way of been, dealing during the day.
Yeah, and I will let me just clarify my answer because, also, I'm not just boozing it up here, but I also, I'm doing this podcast, so that's kind of what's really. I'm doing it every day. I haven't done the podcast daily ever, and that's kind of really been focusing a lot of my extra energy and attention, not just on doing the show itself, but I'm trying to figure out how to plug in all the computers, and I'm learning. What I've decided to do, and I want to ask you if you've found anything like this in your life, but I found that there's always been these things that I've had nagging me that I wanted to do but I'm too busy traveling or doing in normal life. I haven't had a chance to really go into Pro Tools and really figure out the intricate little details of compressor settings and little mastering tricks you can do to make the sound better, So but it's been nagging me in the back of my head for years, going, man, I really want to figure out Pro Tools a little better. So now I'm actually doing it, and to me, that's sort of my I hate to say silver lining, or I don't like to have any sort of optimism here because we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's horrible and people are sick, but I'm trying to find ways to keep myself occupied so that I don't lose it here. Do you have anything like that you're doing? Are you writing more? Are you writing jokes or what?
Yeah. This year was, talk about a memorable year now for a myriad of reasons. Not only is this my 30th year doing stand-up is this year.
Yeah. Wow.
And I really came into the year guns a-blazing and excited for, I was going to do my special that I'm filming was going to be March, and then we actually had just moved it to July in Boston about a month before the pandemic and all that. So it would have been canceled regardless. But a lot of my year so far has been like, for me, the exciting process of doing a special is, the theme and the look and how do I want the cameras to move, and let me learn more about the new kinds of technology. And I get really fascinated when it comes to the ins and outs of creating a completed project. So that's been on the back burner, even though I still delve into some of the minutia. And then now what I've been doing is I've been writing a book for the last year and a half, which was supposed to be completed again for the year 30 release. Yeah. And I'm still hoping that at some point I can release that in the fall, and it looks like now I'm going to have the time to actually finish it.
Yeah, it's sort of weird to say there's something nice about having all of this spare time, and then you think about why you have it, and then you kind of snap into reality and go, what the hell's going on?
Something occurred to me, Tom, and this is like one of those moments that it's cathartic, because although there's this unknown thing that's happening. I mean, we understand the pandemic, but the unknown shift of, who am I in the world, and what do I need to feel, like a whole person? What do I need to feel? And as I've been writing this book over the last year and a half, of course, I look at all the traumas in my life. We all have trauma. Everybody has moments that define them, both through overcoming and then what they do when they have a moment of success. Do they share it? Do we become a person that wants to have even more transparency and clarity? And I've been writing this book, and I've looked at these, I've had 4 or 5 very traumatic, life-altering moments. And every chapter that I talk about those moments the beginning of the next chapter is a beautiful start. And I think we're going to have a beautiful start after this ending of a very terrible chapter. I believe in my whole heart that we're going to come out of this with deeper connections, more understanding, a greater idea of what optimism truly is. And I feel like there's a grateful energy in and around me and conversations like this. So I'd like to just take that moment to tell your listeners and people that are maybe going through this, might be their first trauma. As a person who's been through a lot of trauma, we're going to be okay. And you're going to come out of this better than you were before if you choose to be.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I was actually just thinking about, well, I've been thinking about it a lot, actually, about how, I'm a cancer survivor, right? So I had to deal with, having testicular cancer when I was 28 years old, right? And it was stressful. Let's put it that way. Fortunately, everything turned out fine, and everything's good. But at the time, it was so scary, and I feel like when you have these kinds of traumatic experiences in your life, you are maybe a little bit more prepared for when something like this comes along, because you do, like you just said. I was thinking about that the other day. The other thing I was thinking about, and you touched on this. I feel like this is the first time that the entire world has gone through something traumatic all at once. People all over the world are maybe, at least in our lifetime, maybe since World War II. Okay, it was probably
right.
The last time something of this magnitude happened, I would think. And there's been some talk about how maybe this could change the way people relate to one another, and how we are nicer. Maybe we'll be nicer to each other. Maybe there'll be more compassion towards people. Do you think there's going to be any sort of seismic shift in the way people behave after this, or are we just going to go back to the way things were before?
I don't think it's going to, quote unquote, go back to the way things were, but I do feel like part of the human kind of condition and evolution is when people have insecurity or pain, they don't show that, so they want to put shields up. And that's why people that are hurt other people. So it would be, I guess I'd be living in a fantasy world if I thought, wow, this is going to change the fabric of how human beings treat each other. I think that it's just kind of ingratiated in us to protect ourselves when we feel afraid by lashing out. But I think that identifying that and being able to understand that more people have pain and more people are going through dilemmas that affect them and their families in a very real, stark way. I think that from this, more people understand, and it gives us a little bit more patience, and it gives us a little bit more ability to find the understanding that not everybody is always going to come at you with love and holding down the shield, so to speak. But I do believe that moments like this, you're going to see a lot of people that you and I know that the next time you see them, and the next time we're all able to, hang out and be at the clubs you are going to see a change in certain people. Certain people are going to realize how much love that they do have that they have received, and that changes people. And I think that ripple effect will definitely do good for everybody. I just don't think that it's one of those things where everybody's going to kind of tap into it at the same time.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe some major good will come from this.
And so, Tom, outside of the podcast and a little scotch, what's like? We all have to find some fun, and I find that I've been asking a lot of people, what are you doing just for fun for Tom when it's not a podcast or it's not a what is fun for you, and what is your outlet for having some fun?
Well, I've been practicing the piano a little bit. I've been practicing my piano playing. I need practice. I'm not very good at piano, but I've been working on it. I'm on the phone a lot with my friends. More. I've been talking on the phone more with my friends, like off the podcast, just FaceTiming and cooking. I've been working on cooking. I can really make a mean beans and rice now. It's pretty incredible. I am here. This is what I actually was going to ask you about. You're of course, at home with your girlfriend Kelsey,
Yep.
and you have someone else in the house. I'm in a very sort of unique situation here where I was planning on going back to Canada when this was about to go down.
Right.
And, where my parents and my brother are up there, and I figured I'd go up and hang with them. But then I thought, oh, no, I'll come to L.A. and my place here and do some podcasting, and not really thinking it was going to be a 3-month thing. I thought, okay,
Right.
I can probably handle 3 or 4 weeks, hanging out by myself in the house. But so it's, I'm getting a little loopy, to be honest with you. I'm getting, I when I'm not streaming the podcast though, I do turn the phone off, and I actually am really kind of diving into this drum machine I have here, which is pretty cool. It's this Akai MPC drum machine, which is like sort of a reissued version of an old school hip hop, drum machine. And I'm really geeking out on that actually. So I'm really kind of getting into some of the editing and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm doing a lot of sanitizing. I got Instacart today downloaded, which allows you to order groceries, which is kind of exciting. Have you heard of that, Instacart?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so I'm using it for the first time. I'm excited about that. I used Amazon for the first time. I'd never used Amazon before, and so I actually ordered more canned corn. To be honest with you, I did order more. I'm actually, it arrived yesterday, and I was excited about that. But I found it amusing that for the week leading up to the canned corn arriving, I felt kind of like a little kid waiting for Christmas morning, except I was waiting for 6 cans of corn, So Amazon's fun. I've been getting a little carried away on that. I've been sort of, buying things that I probably don't need.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I should have been buying canned corn, and I think my first Amazon purchase was was like an ab wheel that I could roll back and forth on my rug.
That's a good. Yeah, I need to get one of those so I can never use it. Yeah. So what
it's
else?
Kind of a wild time knowing that you're really. I think that like as grown-ups, we normally feel like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should be prepared for guests, for visitors. But it's really the only time in your whole life that you can like leave porn like on your desktop and just like go into a room for a little while, come back, and it can still be on the main page. You don't even need to hide it.
Oh yeah, I just have it streaming all day around here and on all screens. Yeah, every room of the house. Oh man. Well, so Dane, I appreciate you calling. All the best to you and to Kelsey, and I hope you guys are doing good over there. Has that been fun? It must be fun, right? Has it been any? You talk a lot about relationships, so I'll let you go after this too, because I don't want to keep you all day. But you talk a lot about relationships in your comedy. Is there any advice you would have for married couples and people in relationships who are now in the house together?
Yes.
All day, not able to get away from each other.
The real key to any relationship working before this quarantining, before anything, the magic of a relationship is when you can sit with a person and you can like look at the world outside, and you can, without any kind of PC, no self-sanitizing language, and you can just laugh at everything and everybody together. Just basically like the busting of chops that we all need sometimes. We all need to take the piss out of ourselves once in a while, knock ourselves down some pegs. So if you're with somebody who can bust your chops, but you can look at the world together and find ways to laugh at all the insanity that's going on around you, then for me, that's what's made my relationship work so well. And we're finding the time to do that. It's not always easy to find humor right now, but we need it. It's essential. It's like nutrition. So when you can be with somebody and find somebody that you can really laugh a lot with, and laugh at each other and yourselves and what's happening in the world, that's somebody you got to keep.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you both. That you guys, I follow you on the Instagram, and I've met Kelsey a few times at the club.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy to see that you guys are so happy. You really are so happy. Can you imagine what it would be like if you weren't right now? If you,
Oh,
we've all been in relationships that have not gone well, but there's always that period of time where it's not going well, but you haven't broken up yet. Imagine if the pandemic hit right at that point, and then you got nowhere to go. Thank your lucky stars, you're in the opposite of that.
Let's add another layer to that. What if you're just at that point where you're a few months in and you decide to give it the shot of being together, but the relationship is falling apart during the quarantine?
Yeah, exactly. It's
that's where you don't want to be. You'd rather either be single and ride this out for several weeks, or you'd rather be with somebody that you're like, okay, that's my rock. Yeah. But I have a couple of friends that are living with somebody right now. I actually have even a friend who's newly married. So a couple of friends that are dating and decided, hey, let's quarantine together, and that is not working out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I have a feeling there's going to be I texted you this the other day. I feel like there might be a divorce boom after this thing.
I think so.
After this thing is over with.
I think you'd be Amazoning more scotch. Let's just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dane, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling with your thoughts. I know my listeners are going to really appreciate it too, and all the best to you and Kelsey, and hopefully we get through this damn thing soon so we can get back up on stage down there at the Comedy Store, huh?
I look forward to sharing more stage time with you. And hey, very quickly, thanks again for the album, because Kelsey and I were playing some tracks the other day on the vinyl, and
nice.
You are a very talented guy, man, and I appreciate our friendship that's found its way over the course of the last few years.
Oh, cool.
And thanks for bringing us some great entertainment over here.
Oh, that's cool. I'm so glad you put the vinyl on and had to listen to the album. Yeah, my album. I made that here in my house, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Thanks for listening to it, man. We'll talk more about your music next time, because you're a great musician, so it certainly means a lot coming from you that you like that. So thanks, Dane. I appreciate it.
All right, Tom. I'll talk to you, man.
All right, talk soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Another great episode with the legendary Dane Cook. Thank you, Dane, for calling, and thank you for everybody who tuned in and is tuning in to this show. I don't even know if you say tuning in. Is that a radio thing, like tuning in on the radio dial? I don't know. I better figure that out, because I'm enjoying doing this podcast, and I appreciate y'all listening. If you want others to listen, I would like others to listen. If you'd like to help me out with achieving that dream of mine of having more people listening, you can tell them to subscribe. You can subscribe on Spotify. You can subscribe on iHeartRadio. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe on Stitcher. You can watch and listen on TomGreen.com. And now the audio is also going up to my YouTube channel on YouTube.com/Tom Green. So I appreciate it. Let people know. The more people enjoy this, the more I'm going to enjoy doing it. And I really am getting so much positive energy and feedback from all of you on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So until next time, which will be tomorrow, I want to say thank you and be safe, everyone.